Okay, so this week's Torah portion is matos and massei. It's a double portion.
That's my grandson's bar mitzvah parsha next year.
Okay, so listen up. And something, a part of what this portion, the two portions are talking about really, a lot of it is priorities and journeys. And let's connect them. So really we're talking about the 42 journeys that the Jewish people had from Egypt all the way to where they were now, which is the plains of Moab, right opposite the land of Israel as they're about to enter the land of Israel. And there's different things that are talked about in the portion, including the boundaries of the land of Israel, including making cities of refuge, which we're going to talk about in this class as well. So there was this professor in university who was trying to teach his students about priorities. And this is probably something that, this was going around a lot, this is probably something that you probably know. So what did he do? He took this big pot and he filled it with big rocks, right? You've heard of it? Put the big rocks in, and he said, is the pot filled? And they said, yeah. And then he was able to put in the little rocks, the little pebbles. And he said, is it full? And they said, of course it's full. And he was able to put in the sand. He said, is it full? It sure looked full, right? How else could you put anything else? But he was still able to put in the water. And now it was really, really full. And his message to his students was, when you put in your priorities are straight, when you have your priorities and values straight and worked out, and you put first in the big things, the things that are important to you, then you can always find room for the other things. Whereas if you had done the reverse, there wouldn't have been room anymore for those big rocks, those big values, and those big things. So I have at home this vase that is like a decorative vase. And having that in mind, I was thinking, you always put in like little rocks and little decorative things in these round curved rocks. So one day I'm thinking about what this professor said, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to fill up my vase. And so I put in the big rocks first, right? And it's curved. So they just got, they got stuck in different places. And then I tried to put in some of the colorful little things, and guess what? They didn't fit. Why didn't they fit? Because it was curved, right? It was curved. It was not like this box, this like pot. And then I realized, every stage in life, it's true we have to have our priorities, but there are curves in life. We're not boxes. None of us are one-size-fit-all boxes. No person is like a square box. And in life, it's these curves and these setbacks and these changes and these different stages of our lives that we sometimes have to rethink what our priorities are. Because what might be a priority in one stage obviously the big things are going to be stationary, are always going to be the same. But because we're human beings and because we are not this one size fits all, what sometimes is a priority and a big thing for us might change and might not be a big thing anymore, right? For example, prayer. Prayer is a big thing, right? It's a big thing. It's a way that you connect to God. That's so important in our day. But imagine a woman who's standing and praying, who has a little kid who just hurt themselves, who's bleeding, is going over to her. Is she supposed to say, well, I'm in the middle of my big thing. Sorry. Right? I'll be okay. This is my big thing,
Depends what number child it is. If it's the first child,
Yeah.
by the third child, you're
It's like, he's okay. But that's just an example of how big things change with stages of our lives and with different priorities. So we always have to reevaluate at this point in time, because what's one thing, when we say yes to one thing, we're obviously saying no to something else. And it's important to realize what is the thing that we're saying no to, and how can we, and not always is it so obvious. It seems like it's obvious, but it's not always so obvious what our priority really is and what is the most important thing for me to be doing right now in this moment. And this is, I think, related to this week's Torah portion. What I'm going to ask you to do is to draw on your paper a little stick man with you, and then make yourself like a path, a windy path. And we're not going to do it like you can do this right now, but we're going to go back to it as we go through this class. But so have on your paper this little stick figure, and next to this stick figure is this windy path. Okay, that goes to wherever it is that it goes to. You're putting this little stick figure of you, and next to you is this windy path with different curves along the way, and and then stop it at whatever point. I mean, none of us have gotten to our destination, to the promised land yet. We're always on the journey towards it. But this is you on your path of life. And, what I'm going to be asking you to be doing after this class is to identify some of those turns and curves along the way as different points in time that something happened in your life. It could have been a setback. It could have been a change, a huge change or big change. It could have been a point of maturation. It could have been anything that really is a significant event along your point of life. And we're going to identify, or you're going to, you don't have to share it, but you're going to identify some of those points along your life. And it doesn't have to be like, it could be in the last year, or it could be in your life, in your adult life, or since your childhood. You can do it however you want to do it, however long of a time period you want to go. And we're going to talk about some of those points and some of the priorities that you have along along that path. Okay, so that's what we'll talk about. Put that aside for a moment after you've drawn it, and we'll go back to that. You can think about some of these things as we go through the class. So in this week's Torah portion, which is called the double portion, matos massei, matos is a branch. Massei is journeys. Now when we talk about a branch, there's really two kinds of branches that the Torah talks about. There's a matot, which is a branch, and there's a shevet, which is also a branch. What's the difference between a shevet and a matot? The shevet is the branch that's still attached to the tree. So it's still getting the juices from the tree, or it's just recently pulled off the tree. It's still very soft. It blows with the wind, right? As the wind blows on the tree, branches sway. That's the shevet. The matot is that piece of branch from the tree that has become very hardened. It's no longer soft. It's no longer pliant. It's no longer flexible, no longer bending in the wind, but it's become hardened by being off of the tree for a while. Now, both of these words, shevet and matot, are two words that describe as well. Anyone know what else we talk about? Shvatim, shevet. What does that mean? We talk about shevet Yehuda, tribe. Exactly, a tribe. So shevet and matot are also both words for tribes. And really, what does it mean, a shevet or matot? Both of them are describing this trunk, this big tree, this source of life, and the distinct branches that are off of this tree. So we're talking about God as our source of life. We're talking about the Jewish people together, our ancestry, our history. That's the trunk of the tree. And then you have the distinct individuals that are the different branches off of the tree. And each of us are our own unique beings. We're also different, and each of us have what we need to contribute. So that's what each of the tribes are. When we talk about today, we're talking about the matot. That's the tree branch that has fallen off of the branch. It's no longer connected to the branch, and therefore it's become hardened. And it's interesting because this Torah portion is always read now during the 3-week period. We spoke about last week how this time period is the saddest period on the Jewish calendar. It's when we're mourning the destruction of the first and the second temple, and the 3 weeks till this time period. We actually, this past Shabbat, we benched Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av. We gave a blessing for the new month of Av, which is this coming Friday, which again is a time period of a lot of sadness and mourning. But whenever we talk about, as we said last time, whenever we talk about sadness and mourning in Judaism, we're a very optimistic religion. So nothing is just for the sake of being sad. sadness is always the impetus for something, the impetus for growth. Just like anxiety is the impetus to agitate you to action. When you're feeling anxious about something, it's because you need to change something in your life. Just like if you have a pain in your body, it's not just there for us as a pain, it's in order to remind you that you've got to do something about it. You've got to figure out what's wrong, what's going on. And similarly, these 3-week time period are sad times. Mourning, we are mourning the destruction of the temple, and we have laws of mourning during this time period. We even fast on Tisha B'Av, on the 9th of Av. But these time periods are also times of opportunity to help us to change the world as we see it, change this exiled reality and create a redeemed reality. So when we talk about this mata, this stick, this branch, this stick that has been taken off of the tree, this hardened stick, this like kind of rod that's been hardened, it very much is related to this time period, because we as the Jewish people right now are like that mata. We're that displaced part of the tree. We're not stuck on the tree anymore. We're not getting the juices from the tree. We're not getting the vitality of the tree. We don't feel God's openness, his open presence. We don't feel the source of the tree, the vitality of the tree nourishing us. We don't feel that in our lives, right? We don't always feel that. We feel like we're dislocated, like we're lost somewhere, like we're stuck somewhere on our own, like this mata, this hardened mata that has to go through the whole exile trek, and therefore it's displaced. And as the Jewish people, we are so displaced. We've traveled through so many lands, and one after another, through so many exiles. So we are that mata, and we're mourning this displacement, this division from the actual tree of life, from the tree of life, from our source of life, and the fact that we are not connected to it. And that's why we read this during this time period. But like we said, in Judaism, nothing is just a mourning, and there's always some level of positivity. So just like there's and indeed there is a positivity to this rod. When we talk about, the shevet is attached to the tree. When the wind blows, the shevet moves. It goes with the wind. The mata is this hardened stick that you can walk with, that gives you support, that doesn't bend, that doesn't crack. It's strong, and it doesn't bend with the times. And this really is a lesson for us in exile, that we don't like to be in exile. We mourn it, but yet exile has also provided an opportunity for us to become stronger, to be stronger in our fortitude, to be stronger in our faith, to develop something from deep within us that we wouldn't have otherwise have had. I know, I told you my mother's from Russia, and I know that when she led her life in Russia, where she was fighting for Judaism, where Judaism was something that you couldn't practice, this is in the former Soviet Union years and years and years ago, you couldn't practice anything, and it was literally self-sacrifice. If you were caught, that's it. And yet it's when you fight for something like that that you develop this deeper faith. And today in our times, it's not like we are going to be, sent to Siberia if we keep Shabbat, but we all have our challenges, and we all have the challenges in our own lives. And it's that yearning that our souls have to connect to the source of life, to connect to God, to feel God's presence, that makes us often search deep within ourselves to find that flame of fortitude, to find that flame of faith. And that struggle is so precious. It's more precious than anything. And in our own lives as well, when you have a challenge, when you have a difficulty, when you have a struggle, it's often that struggle that none of us want the struggles, none of us want those challenges, but it's often those struggles that really form us into who we've become, into the strong people and the people of resilience that we've become. So this mata is this piece of stick that has hardened, and in a way that is a benefit of it, that the reason why it's hardened is because this hardness helps us You know, it's where the Jewish people are called a stiff-necked nation, right? So there's two parts to that stiff neck. There's the part of, you know, that we're obstinate and stubborn, but there's also the part that we're strong about our principles and we're very steadfast and unyielding in what we know is right, and that's the good part of it. So when we talk about hardness or toughness, there's really two parts to it. What are some good qualities of hardness or toughness?
Mean what you say and say what you mean.
Good, right? Yes. Right, you know that someone means what they say and says what they mean. That they're an honest person. They're a real person. Any other characteristics of toughness that you can see that you would characterize as positive?
Sticking to your guns when you know it's the right thing.
Sticking to your guns. You know it's the right thing. There's no one who's going to sway you and move you. Exactly. Someone else wanted to say something?
Yeah, but she kind of took it away.
Okay.
I think leadership qualities.
Leadership quality. A leader is not someone who's just swayed. A leader is somebody who knows what they want and has a mission in mind and goes after it. Exactly. So these are the qualities of the matot, the stick, that are positive. And these are the qualities that we are gaining from exile as a nation and personally as people. It's the challenges in our lives that really make us and develop us into the unique, strong human beings that we can become, even though none of us want those challenges. And that is the characteristic of the matot. However, exile is not just in order to make us strong or make us hard. The purpose of exile, and that's the second name of this, the second Torah portion that's connected to matos, massei. Massei means journeys. And the purpose of exile is a journey. We're not just getting this hardness, but we're actually finding a journey. We're journeying towards something. Now, what's the difference between someone who wanders versus someone who journeys? Who has a goal? The journeyer, exactly. The person who journeys has a goal in mind. They're trying to reach something. That's a big difference. What else is a difference?
The journey person knows where they're going.
They know where they're going. And where are they going?
Wherever their goal is to get to.
Okay, so the places that they're going to are important. They're journeying towards a place that they want to see, right? These places are not, you're not just aimlessly wandering, but you're journeying towards a destination or many destinations. So those destinations are important for you. You're not just aimlessly wandering like a wanderer, you're actually going to a place that you want to go to. And that's really what exile is. It's a journey, and not just a wandering. They're not just aimless people just lost and just aimlessly wandering, but we're actually journeying to somewhere. What is the purpose of Galut? What is the purpose of exile? So the Talmud says that the reason why we're in Galus is, anyone know? It says to acquire converts. Yeah, interesting, huh? To acquire converts. Really? What does that
No,
mean?
Because everything about Judaism is to discourage a convert.
Very good point. So this is actually what the Talmud says: Lo nigla hakadosh baruch hu es Yisrael bein ha'umos, ela kedei sheyitafsu alehem gerim. The God did not exile us amongst the nations except in order for us to acquire converts. So let's understand this Talmud. So the first understanding is that there are actual converts. There have been many converts that have joined the Jewish people who are righteous converts, from Rabbi Akiva to so many, to Rus. We were speaking about Rus, right, who was the mother of Mashiach, who we spoke about, the forebearer of Mashiach. So there have been tremendous converts, real amazing people who have converted to the Jewish people. And those are part of why we've gone to so many different places, dispersed among so many different nations, in order to find these converts who are really Jewish, that's why it says Gerish and Iskari, or someone who is Jewish who has been put into the body of someone who is a non-Jew. So in order to find these converts. But a deeper meaning of this is not just actual converts in terms of people, but in every person, in every creation, in everything, in every creature and thing, there's a soul. There's a soul that needs to be realized. There's a soul that we need to take and use and utilize for the right reason. So when we talk about acquiring converts, what does a convert mean? A convert means somebody who has a Jewish soul, but is found in this not Jewish body. And they're trying, and that many of them will tell you, even like if you speak to them, I was just interviewing one, I've had this desire from the time that I was like so little. I don't know what it was. It's not rational. I didn't even meet Jewish people. I read something, I saw something was pulling me in that direction. I don't know why, I don't know how, it doesn't make sense, but something was pulling me. Meaning this soul was in this Jewish soul was in this person, and we needed to find it. She needed to find it. He needed to find it.
In that book, I was here before, or we were here before.
Okay,
And,
yes.
These people had, it's amazing, like, especially the author, I think, they know, like, so many of them had past lives of being in the camps, and they had no knowledge of any, half of them weren't even Jewish, and a lot of them wound up converting at the end. You read their stories, and they wound up converting. It was just, blew me away, but that's what it was.
Absolutely. So that's what a convert is. And what does it mean, a convert that's a creature or a creation? It means within a creation, everything, this bottle, this table, everything that is here has a spark of divinity that's holding it, that's keeping it, that's making it alive, that's making it held together, that's creating it, that's giving it its existence. Everything has this spark. How do we find that spark? How do we find the soul of a matter? Whether it's a soul of an inanimate, animal, how do we find its soul? By using it for a good reason, right? If this water is now going to give me energy to say this Torah class, this water is being used, the spark of God in this water is being used for a positive reason. I've just found the spark of God in this, and I've utilized it for something positive. So when it says that we are amongst all the nations in order to acquire converts, it means literal converts, and it also means to convert our environment, to convert everything around us into something that can be utilized for a positive intent, for a positive mission. And therefore, we were dispersed across the entire world in order to find these sparks of purpose, sparks of meaning, sparks of a mission wherever we are. And each and every one of us has the sparks that we've been given, right? My bottle is not your bottle, okay? Everyone here has their own bottle, right? So everyone has to find what they're going to use this water for, something positive and something good to give them the energy that they need. But everyone's water or everyone's sparks or things around them can be used for different purposes. And each of us can be unique in how we do that. That's what we've all been put into this world and dispersed into this world for. So that's what our journey through exile is all about. Except that the word massei, journey, is not journey, but it's plural, journeys, many journeys. Meaning, we're not just leaving Mitzrayim and getting to the land of Israel in one single journey, right? The Jewish people we're talking about their journey through the wilderness, from Egypt, from Mitzrayim to the land of Israel. But it doesn't say that they left here and they got there. What it does say is that they journeyed from Egypt to Ramses, from Ramses to the next destination, from the next destination to the next, 42 different encampments that they went to. And some of those journeys were not a straight journey. Like there's, you were just in Israel, Egypt is not so far. You could probably do it like in how many hours?
Gosh, come on, you'll be there in no time.
Right, okay, so it doesn't take long to travel from Egypt, even if you're walking, okay, at the time they're walking, but from Egypt to the land of Israel, it definitely doesn't take 40 years. But even not, if you go in a straight line, you can get there pretty quickly. But the Jewish people did not go in a straight line. They went on curves, those curves that you were drawing before of your life. And they didn't have Waze. No GPS. Yeah, they went in a curved in all different directions. And yet each journey was part of their collective journey towards the land of Israel, towards the promised land. So though some of their journeys seem like they're even a setback or a detour or not necessary, it was a necessary part of their journey towards the land of Israel. And this tells us something crucial about our own lives. We are now in exile, and we are traveling also. The Jewish people have gone through so many different lands, so many different exiles, and all of them are to get us to the promised land, to the redemption. But in each one, we acquired different things. We changed our environment. We personally change. We personally become who we need to become in order to be redeemed. How about in our personal lives? In our personal lives, it often feels like there's so many setbacks. You have a goal in mind of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish in your life. And boy, life is so different than what you had thought, that you would be, what you'd become, or what your life would look like. And you've gone through so many twists and turns along the journey. And it's telling us that each and every one of those journeys is necessary. Not only is it necessary, each and every one is not a setback. Don't look at any part of your journey as a setback or as a detour, as something that, horrible. No, it was there for a purpose. And that purpose is to make you into who you're becoming, to develop some part of yourself that needed to be developed. So that detour and setback that you think was a detour or setback was not. It was in order to get you somewhere. It's also coming to tell you that you might think, I'm already out of Egypt, right? We know that Egypt, Mitzrayim, means constraints, things that constrain us, things that hold us back. So we might think, okay, I'm already out of Mitzrayim because I've just figured out this aspect of my life, right? I'm there. And we say, no. Every time that you journey, you got to go to the next place, to the higher level, to the next stage. And even though there's detours and setbacks, but there's the next stage that you need to go to. Never think, I've arrived, right? I'm there. I perfected this aspect of my personality, so that's it. I'm there, right? None of us are ever there. These are all journeys that all of us need to take along the path of life to get to our promised land. And we're never actually there because there's always another journey to take, something else that we need to learn, something else that we need to improve in ourselves or change in ourselves or modify in ourselves. So this is the journeys that we go through in our lives. But these two Torah portions are together this week, right? Very often there's matos and massei, and we can learn about the mata and we can learn about the journeys, but this week they're both together, and there's a lesson for us to learn in them being together. When you think about the mata as we described it, it's this stick. It's not yielding. It's just strong, steadfast, immobile. It stays in its place. It's not moving. When we think about massei, a journey, it seems like it's the exact opposite. The journey is leading us forward. We're moving, we're changing, we're going, we're flexible, right? Journeys are, by definition, something that moves us, that changes us, that moves us forward. The stick is, by definition, something that's the way it is. I am the way it is. So how do we combine these two? Because it's teaching us something vital. When we are on our journeys through life, we have to also have that stick with us. As we're progressing in our journeys, part of the progressing is knowing, what are my principles? What are my values? What is something that is completely unbendable? What's my red lines? What's my priorities? What is a red line for me? And when we can figure out what are our red lines, then we can know, is this servicing me properly? Is this enhancing my journey forward? Or is this something that's a setback? So the matos and massei come together in this way by we can journey forward only when we really have that strength of conviction in knowing who we are, in knowing what our values are, knowing what our priorities are. That's what can help us to get to our destination, to get where we want to be. And before I ask you to do your little journey that you drew, there's one more point that I want to mention, and that's in the end of the massei portion, we have the Torah talks about the 6 cities of refuge that needed to be made. And these 6 cities were, what does it mean, a city of refuge? Anyone know? What was it used for?
I don't know if it was actually intentional murder, or was it an accident or something. They would wait it out to, I guess after a trial, whatever, to see what exactly happened and what they're responsible for, so.
Right, exactly. So if someone killed, they would run to the city of refuge until it was time for them to be tried. And if someone had accidentally killed, they would have to stay. They were accidentally killed, but it was negligent. So even though they did it accidentally, but it was still negligent, they would have to remain in the city of refuge, or what's called the Goel Hadam, which is the closest relative of the person who was killed, could kill them. So if they were in the city of refuge, but it was only if the person killed another person through negligence. So for example, the Torah gives if someone was like standing below a ladder, passing underneath a ladder, and you weren't careful and you left something there that you caused somebody to actually die. So it was your negligence. It wasn't just it happened and you don't know why it happened, like it was completely your faultless. You had fault, and therefore you would need to go to these cities of refuge. You could live a normal life in these cities of refuge, but you need to stay there or else the Goel Hadam, this next of kin, could actually come and kill you. This is also where you went before the trial happened. You killed somebody before the trial happened, that you were tried. This is where you could escape to the city of refuge. So these were 6 different cities of refuge, Irei Miklat, that were established through the land of Israel. Now, like we know, everything that's physical also has a spiritual component to it. So what does it mean when we spiritually kill? When we spiritually kill, it means that each and every one of us is completely connected to our source. Our source is God. And we're always connected to that source. But there are times that we do things that disconnects us from our source. How do we do that? By going against the will of God. Every time we go against the will of God, this connection that we have, this relationship that we have with God, becomes somewhat severed, right? We break it apart. So we've kind of murdered a part of that ourselves. We've taken ourselves and we've murdered a part of ourselves, that part of the connection that where we are connected to God. How can we find a refuge in those moments when we feel like we're confused, we're not connected to God, we don't feel that closeness, we don't feel His vitality in our lives? By running to the Ir Miklat. According to Judaism, what is the Ir Miklat? The Ir Miklat is the words of Torah. When we study Torah, we can reconnect again to God. When we study Torah and when we practice mitzvot, we've reconnected ourselves to our source. That connection becomes real again. Now, there are 613 mitzvot though, right? And some of these 613 mitzvot apply only on Shabbat, different times of years, on the holidays, only for men, only for women, only for a Kohen, only for a Levi, only someone who's farming, only someone who's an employee, how he has to act to his employees. There are so many different mitzvot, but many of them do not apply to all of us at all times. However, there are six mitzvot that apply to every single person at every single moment of every single day. And those 6 mitzvot are those cities of refuge, those places of refuge, how we can reconnect at every single moment when we feel lost, when we feel like estranged, when we feel like we've killed ourselves in terms of the choices that we made. You know, any of you ever feel like, just killed my life, right? Because I made such a bad choice. Or I just killed a part of my connection, or killed my relationship with someone who I feel is so important. We're always doing that. Or I just killed my belief in who I am and who I could be. Ever feel that way? You've murdered, you know, your confidence. You murdered your sense of capability in how you're thinking about yourself. How do you escape that? How do you escape these negative thoughts? By connecting yourself to these 6 constant mitzvot that are applicable to each and every one of us. So you're probably all dying to know what they are, right? Right? What are these 6 things that are going to help me, that are going to be a city of refuge no matter what I am or what state I'm in? So I'm going to tell you what they are. Number 1 is believe in God, that He created all that exists. There's a God in the world, there's a creator that created everything. Number 2, don't believe in any other power other than our one creator. So don't think that anyone or anything has power over you, because there is only God. So no person and no circumstance and no thing has power over you other than God. Number 3, to believe in His absolute oneness, that there's only God in this world. There's not like a lot of different powers in this world. There's only God. And if there's only God, that means that you too are a part of God, that you have God in you. You have this godly self in you. And if you do, then you can connect to that infinite being. Number 4, to be in awe of Him, which means that you don't want to disappoint. Someone that you're in awe of, you don't want to disappoint. You want to really have that relationship strong. Number 5, to love Him, which means not only do I not want to disappoint Him, but I want to get closer to Him. I want to do positive. I want to find that connection. And number 6, not to pursue the passions of the heart or stray after the temptations that take me away from what I know is real, which is God. Okay, when we can focus on these 6 constant mitzvot, then all the feelings of worthlessness, failure, negativity, setbacks in my life, they all disappear. So this becomes the city of refuge, which allows me to once again connect to my source and to not pay attention to all those murderous thoughts that I have within me that are really negative thoughts that are just going to kill my ability to move forward and to progress. And so now I want to go to that picture that you drew, and I want you to identify, let's identify 3 or 4 turns or twists in your life along your journey. 3 or 4, could be a setback, it could be a progress, just a change in your life, a turn along that journey. And again, it could be this year, it could be from your childhood till now. It's up to you how you want to do it. But 3 changes that at the time maybe you thought was a huge setback, maybe it was a setback, maybe it was a huge progress, you got this huge raise, or you changed careers, whatever it is, 3 changes. You had a child, you had a grandchild, whatever it is, the occasion that made a big difference in your life. So you're going to identify those 3 or 4, let's say 3 twists or turns in your journey, then next to that identification, you're going to also write, identify the qualities that you gained from those situations. So what qualities did you gain from those ordeals, challenges, changes in your life? And finally, identify what thoughts or powers or ideas of refuge allowed you to gain those qualities. Like, okay, so the first thing is those twists. The second thing is the qualities that you gained from that change or that situation. And then the third thing is what helped you to gain that? What quality or characteristic in you helped you to gain that quality? Okay, and I'm going to turn this off because we're going to share. If anyone wants to share, we'll share. But I think this is instrumental in really understanding a little bit about our own personal journeys and how through our personal journeys we've developed into who we need to become, and how we've used boundaries and strengths and hardness, the matot that we've spoken about, to really become who we need to become, and how we can use these points of refuge along the way to help us. So we'll stop with that.